Are you prepared to transform your well-being? I'm Sanjay Raja. My mission is to challenge our perspectives on food, fitness, and overall health. I own a successful nutrition and fitness business based in Orlando, Florida. And through this experience, I've learned that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. From creating delicious and healthy recipes, to training elite athletes, and even writing the book, The Food Talk. I've accumulated a wealth of knowledge, but here's the exciting part. There's always more to discover. That's why I'm embarking on a journey to connect with leading experts, unveiling the secrets to a happier, healthier life. Together, let's explore innovative ways to enhance our well-being. This is Recipe for Wellness. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Recipe for Wellness podcast. So, this is going to be a fun conversation because I'm going to give a little backstory. And that is, we're talking with our illustrious director of our show, Mr. Michael May. Please say hello to the audience before I give the story.
Hello. And now I'm nervous. I'm nervous about what story you're going to tell.
Well, it's amazing how people enter your lives for a reason. I'm a big proponent of this. People enter your lives for a season and a reason kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting, and that is I had the idea for the show concept, and I can say this without hesitation, which is you were the one that really latched onto the idea, supported it, and even when we had absolutely nothing going on with it, you still stuck through it. We still kind of found ways to keep it relevant in our minds and all that good stuff. So, it ties into this idea that I talked to everybody about having a vision. And that vision, you can't get there alone. No matter how much we think we're independent, no matter how much we're going to say, I'm going to do this thing, it takes people of like-minded kind of mentality to get you to where you want to go. And I think you, of all people, can really speak to that because you're a filmmaker, right? And everybody's got to have a shared vision on filmmaking. So, and I want you to be 100% honest. You're not going to hurt my feelings here, which is when I originally pitched the show idea to you, which was, hey, you know what? I've got this idea for a show, and I'm thinking this is how it's going to look. What were your initial thoughts?
To be very honest, I don't even remember, because what people need to understand in TV and film and everything like that is it takes so long to get something made, unless you're at a high studio level and you're backed by CAA and Netflix throws you money every day. For the most part, it takes many years. So I actually don't remember. What I will say is I don't think I ever had a negative thought about anything, because your work and your book and everything, I really appreciated your approach to health and nutrition and fitness and everything. And I think you're very grounded. You're not, just spewing BS for everybody. And so I liked your approach to everything. And I thought, this kind of world of travel, food, fitness, health, there's great shows that are made in that genre. So I think I always was excited about it. And to your point as well about you can't do this alone, especially in the stuff I do in my life. That's what it's all about. It's all about collaboration, no matter what. And you have to, when you're developing content for TV or film, you have to work with people that add something of value or that you enjoy working with, things like that. And so your value came from your background, your specialty, and your experience on camera as well. That goes into this too. You're not just like someone showing up doing nothing. You do have a background in acting and everything. So it all sort of tied together. And I know I that's a very long-winded answer, but
No, I think it's important for the audience to hear this, but I'm going to go back even farther and tell the audience something that they don't know, which is I always tell the story of how we met, which is so interesting to me, because we were introduced to one another by a mutual friend. And he's in Dallas now. But the funny part about that story is Michael and I actually talked on the phone for 7 years. It was like 7 years never being in the same room, in the same state, and just talking on the phone. and developed this great friendship and just collaborations. And that to me speaks volumes about how there's certain people in your life you attract, and then they have a shared vision. And we worked on a number of things that didn't go through, but we tried to, like some film financing stuff, all that kind of things. And it was really interesting. I always tell people this story. They're like, really? You guys were never in the room for 7 years? I was like, no, we had a phone relationship for the longest time. But it was cool. It was like talking to a buddy of mine. I was just like, hey, I'm going to talk to Michael today. And, it just was comfortable. It was easy. So I knew in the back of my mind that I needed, I wanted to do a project, but I wanted you to be a part of that because you didn't come off as one of these Hollywood types who was just like so full of themselves, and your accolades speak for themselves. I mean, folks, if you don't know, he is a successful film producer. He had his own production company, still does. He did Fun Size Horror. He produced TV shows for Motor Trend. So he's got a lot on his plate. And he didn't have to take this journey with us, but he did. And I am forever grateful to that. I really am. And I want to make it a success for you, for everybody involved in it. And we're really kind of hitting the ground running. And I think it's been a really cool journey so far. So, but share with us, there's a lot of people who ask me this question, and that is, I want to get a TV show on TV. And I think you're the guy to talk to about this. The reason why is that what people see is what's on TV. What people don't realize, and I just learned this by being behind the camera with you, is how much work is involved in getting it to this point, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, if you could share with us, like, talk about your journey, because I think it's so fascinating because we've had so many dinners together, and you talk about your journey being a filmmaker, and talk about that journey with us. Like what got you into it, what were some of the breaks you got to really move your career forward? Because I think a lot of people are interested in that.
Sure, and it's such a long story, so I have to figure out the right route to take so I don't bore everybody to death. But I started as an actor. I knew from the age of about 4 that I wanted to be an actor and director. I always wanted to do both
Mm,
from that young age. I didn't even know what a director was, but I was like, oh. And I grew up in an era of like Spielberg movies, so there's like a well-known director's name that you would see on the
mm,
screen. And I've always wanted to do both, and I've never wanted to do anything else with my life. And I love that process. I love the creative process. I love everything about both those things and all those things. And yeah, grew up in the theater because I didn't know how to get into film where I was,
mhm,
so it was like theater was the only kind of thing close to it. And then eventually moved to LA when I was 18 to pursue all of those dreams. Yeah, I don't know how to answer people when they say like I want to make a film or a TV show. And the reason being is I've been doing this long enough to know that it basically just comes down to one thing, and that's persistence.
mhm.
That's all it
Yeah.
is. It's just persistence and
Yep.
knocking on every door, trying everything, and knowing 99.9% of the time, whatever you're trying to make will fail. It will not work. And
Yep.
and even as an act, I think being an actor, because when I first moved to LA, I was more focused on acting than directing, because that's kind of the natural progression, is the way I saw it. Is like you act some, and then you start to talk to directors and be like, okay, how do I get into this? And you kind of grow that way. So when I was primarily acting in my late teens and early 20s, uh, you get rejected all the time, and even
Hmm.
successful actors do too. So like you hear stories from movie stars now, and sometimes they still audition and miss a part, or they're like they won a part but it's
Hmm.
offered to Ryan Reynolds instead or whatever. So you get rejected far more than you book a role, no matter who you are in as a performer. And I think that helped me become a filmmaker in terms of trying to produce content, because I'm used to no. I'm used to getting rejected. So you
Yeah.
learn to not take it personally, or you try to the best you can, because that's really hard to do. And you just keep being persistent. And if you don't know something, sometimes that can benefit you. My first movie I produced, it was called Killing Zelda Sparks, and it's a real movie. It's not like a micro budget kind of movie. Like it was a real movie with real money and some real names. And it came about, I think it came about, and the reason I was able to put that movie together with the help of others, because again, you don't do this
Hmm.
alone. I think it kind of came from a naivete of just not knowing better. And I feel like if I was
Yeah.
put in that position again, knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have made the movie just because I'd be trying to do it more right or something, and you
Hmm.
wouldn't know. So sometimes not knowing is great, and you just go for it and you're just persistent because there's no right way to do it. And nowadays, the movie business and TV business, as you're learning right now,
Yeah.
we kind of ended up in a great place with a show like this on public television because it's like it's even harder to get stuff made now. Even though you think there's more content, it's harder to get stuff made and harder to get stuff
Yep.
financed now.
Yeah.
So anyway, another very long answer that I'm not sure is quite appropriate for your question. Um,
No, I think it's really appropriate because, I'm still involved in the acting community here in Orlando, and I've got agents in LA and Miami and such. And you're an actor. I know your wife's an actor. And what I've noticed is that there is far fewer auditions now than at the same time last year and the year before that,
yeah,
right? Now, granted, we went through an actor strike, we went through a writer strike, the fires in California. But what I'm seeing is that streaming channels are cutting back. They're canceling a bunch of shows and they're really pulling back. Like on the commercial side, I do commercials. And guess what? Those commercials you see on TV, they're with A-list actors now. There's a
yeah,
reason for
yeah,
that.
yeah.
They don't want to hire somebody and just say, "Hey, let's see what happens here," like they used to. They're going with a known quantity,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So it came down to one thing for me. And I said, gotta make our own content. That's what's going to get noticed
yeah.
now.
You have to. Yeah, you have to, and that's it for anybody and any level in this business now. Is you have to do your own content. You have to. There's no other way around it,
So,
and it's tough.
so yeah, so talk to us about this. And that is, you as a director, successful director, you as a successful TV producer, you've got shows under your belt and you do this full time as a living. And I'm learning from you in so many ways. And that is, what are you seeing in this industry right now as kind of outside of creating your own content? What's the trend right now in terms of what what are they picking up? What kind of content are they looking for? Because a lot of our season one, season two guests are trying to create content,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're throwing something at the wall, see what sticks, and just like you said, you're going to fail more than you succeed. But what is it that you're seeing that you know streamers and are looking for?
I really don't know, and I wish I did. And I honestly, listening to you ask that question, I'm like, shoot, I need to put some effort back into learning those things because it changes so quick. And we were so
Yeah.
busy, trying to finish season one, and also I'm trying to finish a
Mhm.
movie right now too. So
Yeah.
I haven't been thinking about that. I've been like, I just got to finish these projects and then move on.
Hmm.
So I haven't been catching up because everything changes so quick.
Yeah.
And I'll give an example. So when I started making some shows that were on Motor Trend Television, I was hosting and producing them. They're automotive, but they have like this true crime angle to it, some mystery, because that's the kind of stuff I love. And so I wanted to develop like true crime shows, some documentary series, things like that. And that was really big at the time. Like you could find
Mm.
a lot of stuff on History Channel and Discovery and A&E and all these different networks. And so I started trying to set up meetings and go to meetings. And I went to Real Screen, which know about,
Yeah.
and set up
Yeah.
meetings. And as soon as I did, people were like, "Oh, we're not really doing this right now." And I was like, "Oh, but everything on the air right now is this." And it's like, "Yeah, we're not doing that. If you have like a Real Housewives show, that's big. Do you have Real Housewives?" And it's like, "No, I don't have a Real Housewives show. That's not what I do." Um,
Yeah.
and uh, and so it's just this. It's a cyclical thing. And then a year or two will go by, and I'll get a phone call of like, "Oh, so and so's looking for a show like that again. Do you want
Mm.
to submit them the package or whatever?" So things change really quickly. So I don't know what people are looking for, but that also goes back to you saying create your own content. You
Hmm.
kind of have to you kind of have to do that because things change so much. And if you're a filmmaker, even if you're in health and wellness, just as a good
Yeah.
example, because of your show, people need content, people want content, and it's become part
Hmm.
of businesses. Even if you weren't involved with the entertainment before, now creating content is a big part of almost everything. And so you kind of just have to figure out what you're passionate about and then make content based around that. And
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in passion. And I think if you're passionate about something, you will most likely land somewhere that, oh, this show is now doing well, and all it is talking about stuff I want to talk about. So yeah, if you're passionate about something, just start making content, put it out, use the social medias, use YouTube, and you'll either find an audience or someone may come to you. That does happen, where like some
Mm-hmm.
networks like, hey, we're developing a show about boxing and you're a boxer, and we love your stuff. So yeah, just creating content is really kind of where it's at right now, and I think it's true for actors and filmmakers as well.
Well, so let's give a little bit of backstory, and that is when we talked about the show, we went all in initially because we created a pilot. I flew out to California, we created a pilot based off of that. And then we did the editing, did all that stuff. And then we kind of showed it to some people, and they're like, it was lukewarm reception at best, I think. And then I remember telling you coming out to California because Discovery Channel set up a meeting with me, and we were putting pen to paper. We're ready to go. And then they decided to go all paranormal. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
this
yeah,
clearly. We're sitting there, and I was like, are you kidding me?
yeah.
And then what happened is then we were trying again. It was like 2020, and then COVID hit, and nothing was going on. And then we landed an opportunity with PBS, and I'm a firm believer in things work out for a reason, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So we have a great home, great distributor. It's going out to where it needs to go, which is fantastic. But, I look at this and I said, I never envisioned myself doing all the stuff behind the camera that I've been doing. And it's a new skill set that I've been learning, which has been fantastic. And I get questions like this all the time, which is, on different social medias, and our season 1 and 2 guests, they're like, you guys created this show. It's amazing. It's giving a voice to the voiceless, which was our unintended goal, but it's been a fantastic journey so far. And they always ask is like, how do I get my own show? And it comes back to what you just said, which was we were passionate about the content, number one. And number two, we didn't compromise on the content, right? We said we're going to do it this way. Now, we did evolve with what we needed to evolve with, because originally the show was going to be about children's wellness, and
yeah.
that really didn't take. But now it's more ubiquitous, and people more of a larger audience can relate to it. Think about this, and that is, how do you talk to somebody who like comes up to you and say, hey, I've got an idea for a show, I've been trying, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. Now, we did it very differently, right, for most shows, because I remember our little production team. You've got me, who's just kind of fairly, just like, I'm very enthusiastic, I'll just go figure it out. You had Melanie, who's just like, go, 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 which we love. And then we had you, which you kind of were the conservative, and it was like, all right, let's take it one step at a time. Let's set the expectation. So we had a really good team in the sense that we all balanced each other out, which I really liked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The
very true, very
thing,
true.
the thing that stands out to me about about our show was there were so many unknowns, right? So many unknowns. That is, okay, so we have a distributor, but we don't know if we're going to get picked up by any affiliates. We had no idea. That was one big thing right there. We were going to film this, and we were like, are we going to have enough budget to complete it? I mean, that was a big concern, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was a big concern. And that's something we talked about a lot. And we did it in a way where we believed in it so much. We're just going to figure this out. We're going to get it done. And we delivered, and we got it done. But most people are not willing to do that. And so that brings me to a long-winded point, which is, if you're really passionate about something, and filmmaking, TV production is all about passion. That's what I've learned, is that there's no guarantees in this business. But what I live by this rule, which is you only have to be right one time in your life with one big idea. So the odds are
yeah,
technically in your favor, right? So
yeah.
tell me about your big break. Like, how did you take that leap into, oh my God, I could be a filmmaker full time?
It's funny. I was actually on a what is it called? I forget what they're called, but some like online thing where it
Hmm.
was like people interested in filmmaking, and I was on this call with Matthew Lillard, who's a very big actor, and it was
Yeah.
he and
Yeah.
I sort of answering questions, and of course he got 98% of the questions. Um, but we were both on this call, and he asked me, he was like, Mikey, because he goes me Mikey. He's like, Mikey, when did you get your big break?
Yeah.
And I was like, I I've never had a big break. I still don't feel like I've had a big break.
Yeah.
But then I turned it back on him and I was like, but Matt, I bet you feel the same way. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, you're right. You're so right. And he's laughing and stuff. And so I don't think you necessarily always feel like you get a big break, even if you've had one, because he's been very successful, just using him as the
Yeah.
example. But I call myself, I'm on like the Hollywood F list, is what I say, because I've been around long enough and I've been able to make a living and I've been able to make things and do things and continue doing it. But I've never had the hit. I've never had a break that's just like, oh, now my next job is guaranteed, or oh, now I'm
Yeah.
getting an offer to do X, Y, and Z. I've never had that. So I really don't think I've ever had a break. I honestly think it goes back to persistence and just that I
Hmm.
love this and I love making things. So I have no plan to stop. So that's one of the things that keeps going. And even in our show, when you talk about like, the good team together and stuff, I really did feel like my role, because I was working with people that hadn't made as many things as I had. I've been
Hmm.
involved with so many projects that fail, or like they get to a point and then stop because, oh, we run out of money, or the deal with the whatever fell through. And again, that happens on most things. So it's not
Yeah.
unusual, but I've done enough that I was trying to make sure that we never took a step in a direction where we were setting ourselves up to fail. And that's the
Hmm.
hardest thing, because so many do. Even great filmmakers or great producers will do that from time to time. And so I was like, okay, we got to be really careful, because we could do
Hmm.
something we think is exciting, but then suddenly now we've spent all our money and we can't edit the show. So you
Yeah.
can't, it's like we gotta, like, because we are working very small, it is public television, it's low budget. And I like telling people that because I know how hard it is to make things. So I think it's a
Hmm.
great success when we've actually accomplished something that's really low budget. Because a lot of people are like, don't tell people we're low budget. I'm like, no, do tell people we're low budget. I love that. Like, I think it's great that we were doing this at such a low budget, because it shows that we had the passion and we wanted to tell the story and we were able to do it, and we didn't hit the same roadblocks that other people do. Um, so yeah, it's just, I don't feel like I have a big break. I want to survive and I want to keep making stuff and find, luckily I think experience gives you some wisdom to be able to do something and make sure you
Hmm.
avoid those roadblocks that happen in TV. I will say this for anybody that wants to make content. TV, if you're on broadcast television, the
Yeah.
deliverables in order to deliver to a network are expensive, time consuming, and I'm going to use bad language for your audience, but they're
Yeah,
fucking
please.
terrible. They're fucking awful. And I knew it. And I was telling you when we like first got the deal, I was like,
Yeah.
Sanjay, just wait till deliverables, buddy. It is awful. So don't go into something thinking I'm just going to
Yeah.
make a show like I make YouTube. You can't do it that way. You have to do it different, because it's time consuming, it's expensive. We had to re-edit the show like the week we were delivering the episodes, for a variety of
Yeah.
reasons that are just very deliverable related. So
Yeah.
like I know if someone on the show is like, oh, why didn't I wish you would use this part or blah blah blah, I'm gonna be like, I think we did we not? Like, I don't remember, because we have to edit
Yeah.
stuff right up until we deliver.
Yeah.
So it gets really nuts. And so it just be aware of that. Like, be aware of where to put your money and know you're gonna have to spend it for just getting it on the air cost money. And it's not going
Yeah.
to necessarily be things you're aware of or expecting. And that's part of the game. That's really part of the game. And I'm fortunate. I normally am not involved with post on other TV shows I've produced.
Hmm.
I'm sort of there on the periphery, keeping an oversight of things. But normally I have a team of people that just handle it and know how to deal with it. And even then, it's still super annoying and
Yeah.
stressful. Yeah. So it's an
Well,
adventure.
let me put it this way to the audience, and behind giving you the behind the scenes behind the show, since we're starting to launch out in all these different markets or across the country, which was filming is the easy part.
Yes.
Traveling
Yep.
around, filming in different locations, that was easy. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but it was fun. It was
Yeah.
great. We had a good time. Man, everything that went into doing the voiceovers, doing the editing on your side, and all that, man, I got a taste of what life is like behind the camera. It's crazy,
Yeah.
just crazy,
Yeah.
and you didn't under promise about how hard it was going to be. It was hard, and getting us there. And let me put it this way: Michael, I've known him for a while, and he's very even keeled, pretty happy guy. Nothing gets him too high, too low. But there was a call I did with him. It looked like somebody just punched him in the face like repeatedly. Like he was just done, mentally just spent. And I know exactly how much work he put into it with the editing. He took on a lot of the editing until we found an editor that really could tell our story really well. But it was so stressful. And I didn't realize this kind of stuff. You know, that's what people don't see is that I want a TV show, I want this, I want that. But do you know what's involved? I wasn't ready for it until I got into the weeds with you and
Yeah.
saw it,
Yeah.
right? And so it's so glamorous to be up on screen, but the amount of work it takes to get there is I couldn't quantify it because I didn't really have an understanding of it.
Yeah, and every project's a little different. And one of the things I've learned is that every project will come to a point like that because of
Hmm.
the amount of work. And honestly, Hollywood is not glamorous at all. I think most people that are on the periphery or just fans of watching TV shows or movies thinks it's glamorous. It's not. Even for movie stars, it is not a glamorous thing. The award shows are glamorous. That's kind of the glamour of Hollywood,
Yeah.
but it's really a tale of fiction because it's not like that at all. It's hard work, it's very long hours. And I'm going to say it's a very good thing, but I've worked every job in on a
Mm.
set, every job. And so I tend to not like when people just assume, like, even as a producer, I've had people on sets that I'm working on, like crew people, be like, oh, you're the producer, you get to go home or whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm going to be here after you leave picking up trash because no one else is around to do it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a glamorous
Yeah.
thing. It's not a great thing. And also, when you
Yeah.
produce, you never stop working on a project. Every film I've ever produced, I still work on. It doesn't end. You don't get paid more. You got to keep
Yeah.
working on it. So it's not a glamorous thing. But I will try to circle this back a little bit to the show where I did experience burnout, and we had guests on the show talk about burnout. And in a weird
Yes.
way, it was actually therapeutic to be like, oh, I got to dive into that episode and fix the whatever, and then listen to someone talking about burnout while I was
Yeah.
experiencing burnout. And it became a weirdly like helpful thing to look at the show and look at our guest and be like, how can I use this to my benefit? Because I was severely burnt out, as you know, because you could hear it in my
Mm.
voice. But
Yeah.
I got to a point I just couldn't think anymore at all. So it was a tough thing, but it's one of those things too that I like to look back on and go, okay, what did I learn from that? How do we make
Yes.
this better? How do we do season
Yeah.
two better?
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So I never look at it as like a bad thing to have gone through that. It can
Well,
only be beneficial in the long run.
I'll tell you, I experienced it too. And this was what happened because you actually warned me. And I didn't really take it to heart until it hit me. So we were doing the episodes, I remember, and I think we were in episode one. And I remember you were staying at my old place and you were like, listen, if you need time for a mental health break, you let me know because it's going to hit you. And
Yeah,
I was just
yeah,
like, what is this guy talking about? I can take on
yeah,
so many things. I'm good.
yeah.
But after every episode we did, I needed longer and longer time just to sit in a quiet corner and not think about anything. It was so mentally taxing because I tell people the show's energy has to be up here.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
my guest is here, I got to bring them up here, right? And so I'm always pushing that show forward, kicking and screaming, if I have to. And by the time we got to episode 6 in LA, I remember we had a little bit of time, and I texted you. I'm like, hey, I need a couple hours, dude. I can't go just yet. You're like, no, we're good. And in those 2 hours, I was like, wow, I really was spent. I was done.
Yeah, yeah. My wife talks to me a lot about mental energy because there's times where
Hmm.
I'll sit at my desk all day and record a podcast or something, and I'll get to the end of the day and be like, I'm exhausted, but I didn't
Yeah.
do anything. And my wife will be like, no, your brain was working the whole day. And when you're
Yes.
doing a show, especially when you're hosting a show, because you're doing research on the guests, you're thinking
Hmm.
about, okay, where do I want to take this conversation? How do I want to do it? And then you have me going, Sanjay, hurry up, stand in that door and walk in this way and talk about this thing. It's your brain is
Yeah.
jumping, and you're producing the show too. So your brain is
Yeah.
going from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another. And at the end of the day, that is a lot of brain calories. So
Yes. No, I
yeah.
did not expect that. And here's the thing. I look back at it now going, you know what though? See, I've done TV and film, which is scripted. You've done the same thing. And I find scripted much harder than unscripted. I'm a little bit different that way. Like I'm
Mhm.
used to, I grew up in the world of sales. And you know what? You think on the fly. You just go, boom, this is
Yeah.
what this guy's all about. I'm going to tell him this. So doing the unscripted part felt very natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
Felt very natural because just that's the world I live in. Scripted, like every now and then you'd be like, hey, I need you to say this line. You'd hand me a paper. I'd be like, okay, here we go. Right? Not
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
I get it. It was just a couple of
Yeah.
lines, but I did it. But the thing is, though, we were on such a shoestring budget, and I was so hyper aware of that, that is like, we don't have time for three takes, man. We don't. So you got to be on, walk in, go. Right. So I'm thinking of questions to answer and to ask our guests on the fly. And I'm trying to pull them into a certain direction. And you see it. Like, I think anybody who's a producer, filmmaker, TV producer will see there's a progression from episode 1 to
Oh
episode
yeah.
6 that we saw.
Always. Yeah.
And I think it was really good because I evolved. I felt like I was getting better as we went. I think our style evolved. I think the show evolved. Everything was evolving, but it went in the right direction, which was really great.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a good sign. And you gotta look at that in TV specifically, because TV, you don't find the show as producers. You don't find the show right away. And
Yeah.
it can be different. There's like some, TV right now is in a golden age. There's great television, and some shows hit the ground running and they know, but those tend to be like highly developed,
Hmm.
shorter length seasons of scripted shows. Anything else, even most of the scripted stuff, you got to get through like a season, half a season before it's like, oh, this is the show. Here we go. And you can,
Yeah.
if some of your favorite shows, you can go back and watch and you'll notice that. I think a big one is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I don't know if you've ever
Oh,
watched that. It's a
oh,
kind
I
of
love that show.
I love
Yeah. Yeah.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But if you go back and watch the first season, it's a different show. It
Yes.
really, the characters sound different, they act different.
Yep.
Like, they really found themselves towards the end of season 1. It was like, oh, here's the show, here's the characters, and that's the way it goes. So yeah, it's a good I think we've progressed. We started to figure out things as we went along, and yeah, it's only a good sign, so it can only get better.
Well, the biggest one of the biggest hurdles was when we sent everything over to our distributor, and then the distributor sent it out to the affiliates to test it out. Like, what was the reaction? Like, what do they think of it? And the good news is they like the content. That was the great news. And I was like, awesome. We stayed true to our content and we stuck to our guns and they like it. That was number one. The other feedback was that we got was he's taking us on a journey and we're seeing the evolution. I love that feedback. I was like, I felt it. And I was like, yeah, I felt like I was evolving as a host, trying to get better every time.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was, I was sharing more of myself. I was being more real every episode. So season 1 is about kind of establishing the footwork. Because if you watch shows like No Reservations with Anthony Bourdain, you watch those shows, you look at his season 1 too, you're like, it's like grainy video. It's like 3 of them out there in New York. That's what I felt like we were doing, honestly.
Yeah.
But you see the seasons as they progress, and you see he's a whole different guy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And he's a wonderful benchmark. He was a big influence
Mm,
on us with the style of the show, and
yes,
doing a lot of
yes,
handheld stuff. We get notes from people that are like, it's too handheld, and I'm like, that's on purpose, because we want it to be
yes,
grounded. We want people to
yep.
feel like you're there. These are real interviews, these are not staged. So that's part of the stylistic thing to it. But you look at Anthony Bourdain and he's like that as well. It's like handheld, especially early on. It's like, it's really gritty because it literally is sometimes just a camera guy and him and maybe a sound guy getting on a
Yep.
boat in Vietnam and going to eat food. And there's something
Yeah.
wonderful about that, but you do see him get better. You do see him get more comfortable in being a
Hmm.
host as he goes along. And he's the best. I mean, he's just such a bright, wonderful,
Yes.
talented person when it comes to that kind of thing. And you even see the progression that he went through, which is, it shows you everybody, no matter how talented you are, has to kind of go through that.
So I am so excited for us getting. I haven't taken the time, honestly, to be honest with you. And my kids remind me to do this, which is take the time to celebrate on the achievement, right? And that's part of the mental health journey that I was learning throughout the show. And that
Yeah.
is my biggest epiphany on the show was I don't take any time for my mental health at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Me
also
too.
focused on the nutritional, physical,
Yeah.
but the mental is everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know?
Yeah. And it's great. And I've actually been thinking about that very thing, about celebrating those things recently, because I'm
Hmm.
noticing my own sort of insecurity and fear of being a filmmaker is, oh, I've made this
Yeah.
thing, but I don't want to talk about it because maybe people don't like it, so I'll
Yeah.
just stay over here. And I'm trying to specifically celebrate those things, and I'm doing it because I directed a movie that we're finishing a post on, and so I did a test screening to get notes back, and it's not easy to get
Yes.
notes back, similar to the
Yep.
affiliate thing you were talking about.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to be like, no, this is a celebration. I'm doing the screening, yeah, to get feedback, but I'm also doing the screening to celebrate we made a movie, and that's really hard to make a movie.
Yeah.
So let's celebrate it. And same with the show. It's like we got a show, it's on the air, it's going across the country. Like we have to celebrate those things, and it's a
Hmm.
huge part of mental health and something I need to specifically work on. So I've been thinking about that a lot recently. So it's really nice to hear.
Yeah, no, it's been popping up more, especially. It's funny. It's like they see the persona on TV, and I know you've been a TV host as well too, and
Mm-hmm.
people kind of reach out and say, "Oh, wow, you got this show, and you seem so confident, and you got all these things going on," but they don't. What people don't see is the behind the scenes, which is you're putting on this. You're trying to be as real as possible. You're kind of giving everything of yourself, and then you're not fighting a battle, I would say, but basically you're dealing with all the stress that's involved behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I didn't realize how much it would hit me until it did, and but I've got processes in place now that help me through the journey. Working out has always been a part of my life, so I always do that, but I take mental health days now. I
Good,
never
good.
never implemented that until we did the show.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's yeah, and you do a good job of that overall, I think, because there's an aspect of that you didn't mention that's hard to do when you're hosting and producing, which is you have to watch yourself, and no one likes
Yes.
watching themselves.
No.
It is really hard to try to take a step back and separate
Yes.
yourself from just going, oh, I
Hmm.
don't look good in that shot, don't use it. But it's an amazing shot with a very important part of the story or whatever.
Yeah.
And you've been very good about that. That is a really tough thing to do in the whole process as well.
Well, the other thing I learned is that I'm going to take notes on feedback because that's how we grow. That's how we evolve. You gave me notes. I know Melanie gave us notes, and we can't be everything to everybody. Obviously, we can't do that. But we can improve certain things,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me, I never took anything personally, and I think this industry, one of the shortfalls is people tend to take things very personally,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I separate. I said, listen, this is going to be a journey. I've never been a full-time host. I've done speeches, I've been on camera, but I've never done the full-time hosting gig. And now it's my time to do it, and I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to grow from it, but I'm just never going to take it personally. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my mentality going into it.
Yeah.
So it's like you giving me notes. I'm like, okay, I can incorporate that and see how that fits in better. And I got notes from other people who saw it. But the good news is that I found myself really enjoying the process, right?
Good.
And
Good.
yeah, and see, I think that's the important thing is that you got to enjoy the process of where you're going. Otherwise, you get to the destination, you're going to be really disappointed. So I am in that stage now where it's not the destination of us getting on TV. Not anymore. It used to be that.
Yeah.
It's the process of us getting it on TV and how we're growing, we're evolving. And then we could sit back and go, okay, this is really cool. We're hitting all these markets. That's awesome. I like it. And guess what? Season 2 now, we're pre planning it and we're saying to ourselves, how can we be even better now?
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna think about that. I love that. I love that, Sanjay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
learned a few things. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that being said, I think another important question, and you were specifically the guy to ask. I've been getting a lot. Is that how does somebody, because you've been behind the camera, you've been in front of the camera, you've done both, so you have a very unique perspective. And that is when we were on the show, and a lot of our guests just weren't used to having a camera pointed on their face, right? So sometimes they became a different version of who they wanted to be. And then they look back at it like, God, I wish I would have done this better, right? So, what tips do you have for those out there that, are getting on camera for the first time, and how to
Yeah.
be your natural self.
So there's no real trick to it that I've found personally, but it is comfort. You just have
Mm.
to be comfortable. And guess what? You may never achieve that, but you can get more comfortable than you are when you start. Um, and yeah, just being comfortable and being willing. It goes back to acting, which there's been a number of lessons I've had in my life growing up as an actor, which acting, you're allowed to be silly. You're allowed to be a goofball. You're allowed to uh, be somebody you're not. And even if you're
Hmm.
yourself on camera, and I would approach when I hosted my shows, I definitely tried to start approaching it like this. But think about it like you're playing a role. You have permission to not look good, to sound terrible. And as soon as you just
Ah,
give yourself the permission
yeah,
to do
yeah,
that, you tend to relax and you
yeah, I
tend to
like
live
that.
more in the moment. And also living in the moment. That's also an acting thing. Every acting is talking and
Hmm.
listening. So if you're hosting something, talk and listen. If you're doing something to camera, that's like a very hosty thing, make the camera personal. So you're talking to someone specific when you talk to the camera. Those are things that I would do. But it's all, at the end of the day, it's all just comfort. How can you just be comfortable in front of the camera and be willing to just say or do whatever you're supposed to say or do and not be in your head about it? And a little bit like talking to you about you have to watch yourself. Think about it as someone else. And like
Yeah.
the movie I just did, I play a role in it. I hate directing myself. I am a worse actor when I direct myself, but editing the movie, I've done it so
Yeah.
many times now that I don't refer to myself. If we're doing a scene in post production and editing, I'm not like, oh, I'm not great in that moment. Maybe let's find a different take. I'm usually like, he's not fast. Can we find one where he's like faster and a little more involved with it? It becomes a he. It's not me.
Yeah.
It's he.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you kind of have to do that to yourself too. I think a little bit as well.
So you and I could talk for hours, honestly. I love this stuff. And I think really what I wanted to, convey to the audience on this is that we started out with a passion project, and it turned into a journey for us so that we all evolved, hopefully for the better.
Mhm.
And we brought along all these people who also evolved for the better. And now that we're kind of heading into the next stage of the progression of the show, season two, and all that, tell me, what is your biggest takeaway that you learned from this whole process? Because you've been a filmmaker, you've been TV host, and what's the biggest takeaway that shocked you?
Good question. I don't know if there's anything that necessarily shocked me, but I think the stuff that stayed with me the most, excuse me, is what you were talking about just moments ago about the importance of
Hmm.
taking time for your mental health. And I'm not saying that because I've gotten through a situation of burnout in post production on this. I'm saying it just from listening to a lot of the guests, even scenes or comments that didn't make it on the
Hmm.
air. So many
Yeah.
people talked about the importance of mental health, taking time, being aware of various things, and it definitely made me, even in the moment filming, I'd be like, oh yeah, oh, I should. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, and so that's something that I'm taking into 2025 myself, is making sure I'm taking time for my mental health, being okay with that when I'm feeling worn down, when I think I've done nothing, and going, no, my brain and all of that has been
Yeah.
doing a lot of work today. Let's take some
Yeah.
time, and just becoming accepting of that. So yeah, nothing necessarily shocking, but those little lessons which are adding up and speaking to me very personally.
Yeah. I think that's similar along the lines of what I felt, which was I never took enough time for my mental health. I
Mm-hmm.
never, I've got this avatar of being very healthy, both physically and nutritionally, but my mind was racing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my time when I went to India. So we went up to North India and I sat and chanted with monks in Tibetan monasteries, and it just cleaned my baggage out of my head, which was great. And I think coming into new projects in season two and everything else that we're doing either together or separately, I'm going to be taking a more holistic approach about it, which is it's okay not to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to understand that, but just being vocal about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know so many. I'm not going to obviously name names or anything, but some of our guests and stuff like that I've talked to offline, and they were burning the candle at both ends. And they're like, I just got to do this. I got to do this. I said, I'm going to stop you because I am that guy. Just got to take a moment. It's going to be there. It's not going anywhere. But I think now more than ever, for me, what I've done is whatever side of the political fence you're on, I respect whatever your beliefs are, but I choose not to watch it. And that's been very helpful to me.
I'm trying. I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm trying not to watch it. I'm failing a lot, but I'm trying. I'm trying my
Yeah,
hardest.
that really helped me. I was in India for 2 weeks and I didn't watch a lick of it. I felt fantastic. Yeah, felt fantastic.
I believe it.
Um,
I believe it.
yeah, I'm aware, but I'm just not in the moment going, oh my God, kind of thing. I'm just not doing that right now. So, that being said, I think this was a really important conversation for us because I wanted the audience to understand exactly kind of our journey, our progression going to season two. But now I want to give the floor to you, Mr. Michael May, and I want to have the audience know where we can find you, what projects you got going on, because I know you got a movie coming out, which I can't wait to see. So, floor is yours, my friend. Tell us where you're at on social media, what projects you're working on, where we can find you, what's coming up for you.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram. I think it's Michael May Official, I think is what my name is. I
Hmm.
always forget. But you can find me on there. And right now I'm really trying to focus on just my podcast. I have a podcast called A Study of
Hmm.
Strange, which please check out and subscribe to and listen to. Very different
Yes.
than the topics of Recipe for Wellness. It is about my favorite stuff, which is just a variety of strange mysteries, and that covers a wide gambit of
Yep.
genres and topics. And I love to do deep dives and hard research into stuff. And that's just like a personal passion project of mine, but it's led to some other stuff as well, including I'm now hosting an automotive podcast called Fuel for the Future, which is
Oh,
presented
cool.
by America's Automotive Trust, which you can also find by looking that up. And
Nice.
yeah, I have a movie coming out, which I will share more information later because I'm actually going to change the title of it, which I've been wanting to do for a whole year. And it's finally, now that we're almost done, I'm like, all right, I got to change the title. So I'm not going to tell you
Yeah.
what it is because the title will change probably this week. So yeah, I don't know
Okay.
what it'll be yet, but it is a thriller. It's a psychological thriller. It's very weird and kind of David Lynchian, which is also kind of right up my alley of style and stuff too. So I'm very excited about that. But yeah, if you follow me, there'll be more updates on social media.
Well, he does have an IMDb profile, so check out his previous work on imdb.com. And we are going to be, just as a reminder to everybody, we are kind of launching out to all the networks. So we're in New York, Chicago, just got Salt Lake City time slot, and we're making our way from east to west, so which is fantastic. And we're going to have the streaming channel up and running hopefully this month as well. So we're going to have that audience come in too. So check out the Recipe for Wellness Facebook page, podcast, and our YouTube channel is going to have all our content on there as well. So we'll be guiding everybody there because there's going to be some great behind the scenes stuff and getting to know our guests even more. But Michael, thank you so much. Season one was such a journey. I've learned so much in this process, and I can't wait to start season two with you and then show the audience kind of how we're evolving, how the show is going to change the world. But thank you again. And for everybody in our audience, please check out Michael May and his social media handles. And you're going to see a lot more of this guy because he's got a movie coming out, he's got the podcast coming out, and he's going to be helping us with season two of our show. So thank you for
Yeah.
your time.
Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Recipe for Wellness podcast. Check us out. We're on all the major platforms. And I hope you got value out of this. And we will see you very soon.